be a lot of points.
We're now joined by Baylor's Director of Athletics, Mack Rhoades. Birthday boy, Mack Rhoades. Happy birthday.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Go ahead.
Are you in Kansas City?
No, I'm not in Kansas City. Had to run out of town to take care of a few things with having an off weekend, not playing on a Saturday. So we'll be back in the office tomorrow.
Well, we appreciate you joining us on your birthday, and also the fact you got other things to do. We always appreciate it. Brett Yormark today at Big 12 Media Days for women's basketball, mentioning and just reiterating that Texas and Oklahoma are through 24-25. One, are you surprised at that, even though they say they're going to stay? And did you ever think they would actually do that when the announcement came a week last summer?
Yeah, so, again, like all of this, it's been extremely fluid. And I would just say as recent as maybe a couple months ago, we thought that there might be a window where they would leave early, a year early, not 2 years early. And that's for a lot of reasons, and, reasons I can't disclose, that didn't work out, didn't happen. And so, I feel pretty certain that they'll be here through the 24 football season, the 24-25 academic year. When all this happened, a year ago or more than a year ago, if you look back, Oklahoma and Texas, and I would say both presidents, both athletic directors, publicly stated that they would be here throughout the end of the grant of rights, throughout the end of the TV contract. And so, that's where we're at, and that's what we're counting on.
If you don't mind me clarifying this, and I know that there are exit fees, no matter what. There are whatever. The grant of rights runs out at the end of 24-25. Is there still going to be, in your opinion, when all this is said and done, not just the exit fees, but will there be other penalties, or can you comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, if they, stay till the end, right, contractually, the only thing that would be due would be the termination fees. And so there would be, no grant of rights penalty, but yes, there'd be a termination fee for both institutions.
Mack, is there some benefit to a 14-team league for 2 years, seeing as it will allow you to kind of figure out what scheduling could be, should that be the permanent number, or at least part of what a permanent number could be in the Big 12 in the ever-fluid, changing world of college athletics?
Yeah, I think it's, Paul, a fair question. I don't mean to be flippant. Mm-hmm. I don't know that it really matters all that much. I think, the biggest decision we have ahead of us, right, is divisions versus one division. And I think that's really going to be the exercise for us, whether it's, 12, 14 or 16 sometime in the future. So, those are things that we can continue to talk about and work through. And I think right now we're in a good place. And, I think it's the right thing. We're focused on just these next 2 years with, Oklahoma and Texas. And then once, they exit, then, we'll rethink it. And do we have the right formula? And okay. By the way, and apologize for continuing to go on. But by the way, there's factors that influence all of that, including, new TV deal, TV partners, plus, CFP going from 4 to 12.
Mack, what are the conversations like when coming up with a schedule? What are some of maybe the intangibles as far as how all of that works that maybe us observing on the outside don't quite understand? We're like, hey, just release the schedule already. Like what kind of goes into the inner workings of that?
Yeah, there's a lot, and there's an algorithm, a computer, right, that's certainly much smarter than me, but we take into account, rivalries and, what are key rivalries that we need to keep alive. We take into account travel, and, you think about the addition of the four. Well, three of the four are fairly long road trips. When you think about Central Florida, Cincinnati, and BYU. And so, how does that factor in, particularly if you have to play two of those institutions, and you've got West Virginia, so let's include them in terms of long travel. So, if you've got to play two of the four in a particular year on the road, how does that work into it? Believe it or not, there's a formula in there in terms of competitiveness, and we take a look at, historically, how teams are performed. And I think that's probably the hardest piece of it, is this idea of competitive balance. Because you look at the league, this year, and there's some institutions that maybe traditionally you could say haven't been very strong, and all of a sudden, they're in the upper half of the Big 12, and good for them. And so there's a lot of those pieces. Who did you play last year, right? So who did we play, meaning this year, 2022? How does that work into the 23 schedule? And then, TV partners, do they have are they able to weigh in? And so that can be, I'm not saying it always is, but that can be a factor as well. So there's a handful of all of those things that you're thinking about.
Matt,
I think
I'm sorry.
The sequence. No, I was going to say, it's probably less about who you play, and it's more about the sequencing of games and where they fall on your calendar, and the bye week and back-to-back games and all of that. So the sequencing piece is the really, really important part of putting the schedule together.
You play Kansas 11 o'clock Saturday. It's homecoming weekend for you. And I know the networks make the decisions, and they have to go with what they think is the game at specific levels, times, whatever. Is there ever, and I don't even know if it is, but is there ever consideration, for example, when it's homecoming weekend? I'm not one that cares whenever you kick off. We're going to be there. We're going to cover it, whatever. But is there ever a consideration on something like this weekend when you have homecoming that an 11 o'clock game makes people have to get up to go to a parade like at 6 o'clock in the morning?
Like when it's dark. And so, yeah, bring your flashlights. Yeah, we can put in the request and ask for consideration, and look, I think sometimes, it's given, but, probably more times than not, especially in today's TV world, it's about ratings, matchups, time of day, all of those things. And so, it is, I'm not going to say otherwise. It's hard to play 11 a.m. game for homecoming. And, it's hard for all of the people that work really, really hard in terms of putting homecoming together. It's hard on our fans. But that's college football today. And, we'll still have a tremendous homecoming, a great crowd, and it'll be a great football game.
Mack, part of that is that you've got an improved Kansas team coming in here that is nobody's doormat anymore. They're super fun to watch, as is the whole league. How did all of a sudden the football side of this become like basketball, where there's no freebies in the league anymore?
Yeah, that's Paul, it's a great question. And, I think when you look at, 1 to 10 right now, there's some just really, really good football coaches in our league. And I think, across the board, every one of the Big 12 institutions has made a commitment to football. And, I think Kansas just, announced a $300 million, project to enhance their football facilities. we're breaking ground on a football operations center, and so I just think, every institution has been very intentional about investing in football, and you're starting to see it pay off. And I would just say 1 through 10, there's not a more competitive league in the country right now.
Mack, I think we saw that up close, and on Thursday night in Morgantown, and then the games that followed on Saturday. I know that was a tough loss. Obviously, being back home, and this is an important one with Kansas to either move above or below 500, but still a long way to go. It just seems like this team is really still trying to find itself. What was kind of your impressions following what you saw last Thursday? Okay,
Lost him.
All right, I'll try again.
We'll reboot him. Again, thanks for the chat room and a couple of you asking questions that we might be able to ask Mack if we possibly can, and we get to that as well. Craig's Off the Radar, by the way, is just around the corner, and so we'll see if we can reestablish with Mack Rhoades, Baylor's Director of Athletics, with us most every Tuesday at around 4:15 or 4:20 in the 4 o'clock hour. So I really don't care about kick times. There's some that are more convenient for us. We're not the ones playing the games. We're not coaching the games. We're not fans of the game, of the teams playing. We cover them, and, yeah, we want to see great football. And you do want to see the team that you cover do well. Last year was a lot of fun at 12-2. But, man, I tell you what, you talk about two things that get discussion from any fan base: kick times, uniform combinations, and, of course, then also complaining and being concerned about wins and losses along the way. Craig Smoke was about to ask Mack. Mack, thanks for back with us. Craig, go ahead.
Yeah, Mack, I was just thinking about the competitiveness of the league. I think we saw that on display in that West Virginia game last Thursday night, and in the games that followed on Saturday. Obviously, that was a tough loss. Morgantown remains a haunted house. This team's now 3-3, and just in listening to Dave Arend, it just seems like it's been really difficult for this group to kind of find their stride for whatever reason that may be. But what were your thoughts coming out of that contest last week?
Yeah, candidly, I was not happy, and that's not to take anything away from West Virginia. That's a game that we could have won. It's certainly a game, in my opinion, I thought we should have won. I get that we were 0-5 going into Morgantown, I believe it was, but I just thought that was a game that we had a great opportunity to win, and we didn't. And I think we all take losses really, really hard, and that was certainly one of them. It just feels like, Craig, that we're just a hair off. And so I think for us, the key right now is to keep the team together, because I think if we can keep it together, and Coach Aranda does such a great job of that. We can keep it together. I think we have a chance to have a great second half of the season. But I'll be frank. I think the first half, 3-3. I would be disingenuous if I said I was happy with that. We need to be a football program that's relevant, nationally relevant every single year. Not every other year, not every once every 3 years. And we have the opportunity to do that. And Coach Aranda has done a phenomenal job. And I think the second half of the season will be an opportunity for us to get some things corrected and again fix just those little tiny details. The margin there in terms of winning and losing is razor thin, and we've been on the wrong side of that, and we need to get on the right side of it.
Well, that's a great way to put it. Great question from Craig as well. Mack Rhoades, Baylor's Director of Athletics, with us on 365 Sports. So the New York City trip, I think I asked you last week, it was before it happened, and obviously Yormark and Bob Berta, Scott Drew, Bob Huggins, among others, were there. It is without question something that he is looking at different ways of bringing youth and infusion of young fans into the conference. Do you like what you see, what he's been able to do? And I think there was another announcement earlier this week for the Big 12 about getting as far as a younger type base of fans.
Yeah, no, I, just plain and simple, I love it. And I think it's smart, and I think it's, something that we should be targeting and be really, really strategic about. I think the announcement of bringing on translation is a big piece of that, and how we connect with certainly all people, but we need to, and I think college athletics needs to just in general do a better job of connecting with younger people, and so I love what's happening, and it's a process. It doesn't happen overnight. It's one step at a time, but I think we're on the right path.
Last question, Mac. There was an announcement last week for, I think, Startup Waco and yet another NIL opportunity for Baylor athletics, Baylor football players. There's been other ones that have been announced. I know that you are kind of very careful about how you jump into these things, or Baylor is, but this one seems like it's directed directly to the football team. Are you kind of in control of all of what you see, and is this the progress that you said, hey, just give us some time?
Yeah, I think this is the progress where, again, just being really thoughtful on how we do it. And, I think I've said this before. I think there's times where you want to be, first in line. And I think with name, image, and likeness, just given the fluidity of it and all that's going on in terms of landscape, and including, different state laws, and, it's different what we can do versus other institutions just within our own league. And so I think this is just another really, really positive step. And I would say when you think about Startup Waco and GXG Exchange, it will be broader than just football. We were specific, or Startup Waco was specific to football recently, but it will go beyond just football.
Mac, happy birthday. Thanks for your time. We appreciate you giving it to us on this day.
Thank you, gentlemen. You take care.
Mack Rhoades, Director of Athletics at Baylor, with us on Sic'Em 365 Radio, 365 Sports. So